It is so great catching up with my next guest, and it has been a very long time since we have done an interview. Of course, I'm talking about renowned striking coach Brandon Gibson here on the program. Brandon, how are you?
I'm great. Always good to be on the show, James, and good to talk to you again.
Yeah, good to talk to you as well, man. And I kind of wanted to start there first. I mentioned it there. We have not done an interview in a while, but I feel like you've kind of been in the background a little bit these last couple of years. Do you like that? I know you had a lot of eyes on you when you were working with, Jon Jones and so many other high-level fighters, but how has life been different now compared to maybe a few years ago when everyone was talking about you?
I kind of switched. I think I found more success and more joy and more fulfillment in working with less fighters. I mean, there was definitely a time that I was maybe working with 17 plus UFC fighters at one time and on the road 40 plus weekends a year. And, it just wasn't the best balance for me. And I find myself as a coach finding much more fulfillment and value when I have a smaller group of fighters to focus on. So I've done that. I've been very focused on Aaron Pico. Jon Jones and I continue to work very hard over the last 2.5 years towards our goal of Jon becoming the heavyweight champion of the world. And, always working with a few different prospects here and there. But the majority of my time really is focused on those two fighters and, being on the road less and focus more on my best job, which is being a father.
Right. Yeah, I can relate to that. I got 2 kids now, Brandon. That's how long it's been since we've talked. Thank you. And obviously, one of the big reasons I wanted to get you on here is you've been working with Tony Ferguson. We've seen all the posts on social media. I wanted to start first with, how did that get set up? Was it Tony reaching out to you? Was it you reaching out to him? Like, how did it come together with you working with Tony Ferguson?
A couple years ago, one of my prospects at the time, Lando Venata, took a short notice fight against Tony that turned into quite a bit of a scrap. And I think Tony and I kind of developed just a connection after that. And we always stayed in touch, always stayed in contact. And, that we've talked for a long time about working together. And this past week was the time. And he drove out to Albuquerque. And, man, did we have a blast. We had a blast working together. He also got in great work with Greg Jackson and Mike Winklejohn and the rest of the fighters at Jackson Wink. It was cool because, he's such a veteran. He's such a great champ. And for him to not only be a very open student, but to also share so much knowledge with the rest of the team was really cool to see. And, man, I can't say enough great things about Tony. He was humble, he was hardworking, he was dedicated, and just very open to ideas and communication. And so it was a lot of fun working with Tony this past week.
So has he gone back to California now, or was he just there for the week, or is he staying for a bit longer?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. He came out for the week. I think he really enjoyed it. And, we'll see what kind of doors open for the possibility of us continuing to work together more in the future. I know I'd definitely be open to it. And, he has a family, and I know he's based out of California, so we'll just see how things go.
Interesting. How did he gel with the team? I saw that group photo. It looked like he was right into it. It seemed like everyone, he's Tony Ferguson. Who doesn't like that guy, right?
Oh, man, he gelled great with the team. Hard rounds. He pushed himself. Great drilling partner. And, I have a big striking class on Wednesday nights, and kind of the last 5-10 minutes, I had Tony show the group some moves, and I could just see, man, everybody just bright-eyed and big smiles on their face, getting to learn from one of the greats.
What was it like getting to work with him specifically? Because we know he has very unusual sort of training habits, and even his style's a bit different. How has he compared to other fighters you've worked with?
I feel like the first few mid sessions are always more for the coach to kind of catch the fighter's rhythm. So, we didn't spend a lot of time going over a lot of new moves or specific game plan or strategy or anything like that. It was just kind of catching a flow. And he's very creative. He is very unorthodox in a lot of his movement and style, but he also has very strong fundamentals too. So, I felt like we just caught a good flow, and I was just trying to gauge all of Tony's movements. So it was a good time, and he is very strong. That's one thing that really surprised me at 155. And even compared to a lot of the welterweights I've trained, Tony is extremely strong. Once he grabs you, I was blown away with his strength, and just also amazing cardio and stamina. Like, he was just not fatigued. I thought coming up to, Albuquerque's over a mile high, and I thought the elevation might catch him a bit, and it did not, man. Nothing could slow that guy's roll.
Do you get the sense that you guys are going to continue to work together? I know it's only been a week, but it seemed like everything was very positive, and this could be something, routinely going forward.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Tony's had a lot of fights in the UFC. I don't know what his remaining career goals are, but I know the doors at Jackson Wink will always be open to him. He made a good impression on us and the team, and hopefully vice versa. So we'll just see how it goes.
Okay. And just sort of last thing on Ferguson, what do you say to those critics that, maybe say it's time for Tony to hang it up? I mean, he had a lot of success early on in that Michael Chandler fight. He just got caught. What was it like actually getting to work with them, and kind of keeping that in mind of people saying, hey, maybe it's time for Tony to step away?
I always think that that's up to the fighter, and if they're hungry to learn, if they're hungry to sacrifice, if they're hungry to be committed towards their goals, I'm all on board. And Tony coming out to Albuquerque, I think, says a lot about where he wants to go in his career. And, he's fought the who's who. And, they have been very close competitive fights. He's banged with with Gaethje and Charles and Chandler. And, he's right up there fighting the cream of the crop. And I think with some small adjustments in his style and his game plan and his strategy, and maybe give him some good looks with some of the guys on the team, that he could write another chapter of his career. And we've been able to see it with a lot of great fighters who have come out to Jackson Wink and had a revitalization in their style.
We got to talk about Jon Jones. Obviously, I know he doesn't have a fight booked yet officially, but it looks like there's something in the works with him and Stipe Miocic. How often do you get to work with him? Because obviously he's training. He's just waiting for that call.
Oh, we train 4 times a week. He's been staying busy. He's been working very, very hard. And yeah, we've just kind of been in the shadows working towards this goal. And we'll see what this goal ends up being. The ultimate goal is UFC heavyweight championship. And I know Jon is very capable of that. And then we'll see what happens first. At the end of the day, James, Jon's ready for all the challengers. He knows at heavyweight that he's going to have to fight Ngannou. He's going to have to fight Stipe. He'll have to fight guys like Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades. And that heavyweight roster is very deep. And just like at light heavyweight, Jon has that mindset that he's going to fight them all and he's going to conquer them all.
How's it been with the fact that I know him and Wink sort of had a bit of a falling out, and I know you're still working with him? How is that like right now, like in terms of having to work both sides, so to speak?
It's everybody's just been very clear with their goals and with their time and how it's going to be spent. And the whole situation was a bit unfortunate. It's always rough to see people that worked together for so long, kind of part ways. But the goal for Jon has not changed. So we don't let anything deter that. We don't let anything get in the way of the focus that we have when we are on the mats. And we just keep a real positive attitude and go in there and give each other all that we have.
How has Jones looked in this new weight class? One of the questions was he's bulking up, but is he going to lose some speed? Like, how have you noticed the Jon Jones heavyweight compared to Jon Jones the light heavyweight?
Well, I think anytime somebody goes up a weight class, you're going to see, a gain in power, a gain in strength, and maybe a little decrease in speed. Jon's still so incredibly gifted and talented in all areas of martial arts. Like, he's so explosive. It's been great seeing his power grow. He's still a very fluid striker. Jon's always had great combinations, great entries, great kicks, great grappling, and phenomenal ground and pound. So I'm just excited to see Jon apply all of these strengths he has at heavyweight. I think there's some really intriguing matchups. And, Jon's been pushing hard with a group of really big, skilled fighters, and we've had a lot rotating kind of in and out over the last 2+ years. So we've been trying to do it right. It's not going up 10 pounds from 45 to 55 or 15 pounds to get from lightweight to welterweight. Going from light heavyweight to heavyweight's a very big transformation, and I'm proud of Jon for taking the right time to do it properly. And it kind of reminds me of, GSP going from welterweight to middleweight. That wasn't an overnight transition. It takes a lot to not only put on that size in a good way, but to have your body accustomed to doing what you want to do as a martial artist with that new size and strength, and making sure those neurons are firing just as fast with that new muscle, that new weight. And James, I'm just excited, man. This has been a big goal. There's been a lot of sacrifice in it, a lot of planning, a lot of preparation, and I feel like we're getting close. So I hope before 2020 22 is over, that we see Jon Jones grace that octagon again and get his hand raised as a heavyweight.
Well, like I said, the rumor, at least, again, nothing signed yet, but him and Stipe by the end of the year. How do you look at that fight with Stipe? Obviously not giving away any game plan here, but that's a really tough fight because we're talking about one of the greatest heavyweight fighters of all time, although Jon's is one of the best fighters of all time in his own right.
Absolutely. There is an argument for Stipe being the greatest heavyweight of all time. And these are the kind of opportunities that Jon wants, that he's actively seeking out. And if Francis is off the table for right now as he recovers from his injury, then we want the best. And I think outside of Francis, Stipe is the best. And, it's two great champions, two very formidable champions. We've seen grit and toughness and power and amazing finishes out of both of them. Yes, Stipe is no cakewalk. I think this would be Jon's greatest challenge yet. And just the other day, Greg Jackson was saying one of the things that fans, found, I don't know how to phrase this like Greg phrased it, but, pretty much one of the reasons that Ali's legend lives on is because Ali stepped up and fought just these amazing warriors that nobody thought he could beat. Guys like, George Foreman or Sonny Liston. And that's one of many reasons why Ali was iconic. And I think, as Jon takes on these next set of challenges, it's something that fans are going to clamor over, whether they love him or hate him or want to see him win or want to see him lose. Like, Jon's going to make that walk and fight these guys that, are monsters. So we're excited. We're excited for these opportunities.
If he beats Stipe, then obviously what's next would be Francis Ngannou. How are you looking at that fight from a style perspective? Because I think one of the things that critics have sort of brought up is that Francis has some serious power, a lot more than, say, some of the guys that maybe Jones fought at light heavyweight. What do you make of that matchup with Francis and Jon?
Yeah, Francis' power speaks for itself. And, he's showing that he's becoming a much more well-rounded fighter. His fight against Ngannou shows that his ability to go 5 rounds, his ability to use his wrestling and his clinch game and his kicks, and his growth that we've seen out of his time in Extreme Couture. And then he always has that X Factor power that is, it's hard to prepare for, right? You cannot make any mistakes against Francis. And Jon's one of those guys that does not make mistakes. So with all that said, I think Jon is a very hard fight for anybody to prepare for. And out of his 15 title victories, I think he's really shown his cardio, his pace, his resiliency, and his technique in all areas. And at heavyweight, he's going to be even more dangerous. I promise you that.
And another big name we got to talk about, again, you work with a lot of really notable fighters. Aaron Pico, what a career turnaround he's had a bit. I know he had a lot of pressure going into that first Bellator fight. He's had a couple losses, but since then, he's been unstoppable. He's fighting Jeremy Kennedy, someone I'm very familiar with. Kennedy's a Canadian guy, actually from the same province as me. How's Aaron looking ahead of that big matchup that's coming up here soon?
I couldn't be more proud of Aaron and the work he puts in. And, he's been a champion since he's been a child, in wrestling and pancration and boxing. And I have no doubt in MMA, he'll also be a champion. He's so gifted. He's so hardworking. He's so intelligent. And I think we really are starting to fire on all cylinders. Aaron just turned 25. We're excited about this fight with Jeremy Kennedy. This was one that was supposed to happen a few months ago. Kennedy suffered an injury. We took a short notice replacement in the very resilient Aldi Edwards, which Aaron was just able to put on a master class. Aaron's finding his groove, and I have no doubt that Aaron will be Bellator champion in 2023. And Jeremy Kennedy's going to take us one step closer, and I think it's a great style matchup for Aaron. Kennedy's tough. He's been in there with some of the best, like Volkanovski. He has a tough style, but he's not going to out-wrestle Aaron. He's not going to out-box Aaron. He's not going to out-strike Aaron. He's not going to be stronger in the clinch or in the scrambles. Aaron's going to go out there and dominate.
How do you think Aaron would match up against Patrico Pitbull right now? We've seen Pitbull lose before, but obviously he had a really big win in his last fight in that rematch against AJ McKee.
We're ready. We're ready. I think Aaron's going to match up very well against Pitbull. I think he's going to match up very well when we rematch Adam Borix. We're putting it all together. Aaron's defense has just been flawless in the past 6 fights, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of in Aaron's growth. His conditioning is always on point, and his takedown entries are unstoppable. And when he gets the takedown, he's putting guys away with ground and pound. He's putting guys away with submissions. And there's no safe place to be with Aaron Pico.
Got to get the coach's perspective on a couple big fights we got coming up right here. The first one I wanted to mention is coming up here in less than a month. We've got this Khamzat Chimaev and Nate Diaz fight. What do you make of that matchup? Obviously, Nate's last fight on his contract, and Chimaev's getting pretty close to a title shot here. What do you make of that fight, and how do you see that one playing out?
Khamzat has shown what an explosive fighter is. He went on that amazing streak where so many finishes in very quick time. He's powerful, he's explosive, he's very dangerous, and he's very game. And I think the fans and coaches were able to see some flaws in his style in that fight with Gilbert Burns. And Khamzat has had success with these quick finishes, and sometimes when you're constantly hunting that finish, it can fatigue you and wear you out. And there's one thing that Diaz brings. It's that's that resiliency, it's that durability, and it's his volume. And he tends to wear guys down as these fights progress. Lots of volume, lots of striking, lots of variations and mixing it up. And he's tough. It's going to be a hard fight though for Diaz, and he's going to have to come in very conditioned. I think he's going to have to weather an early storm to get to a point where he could fatigue Khamzat and start putting on a flurry. I think Khamzat's power early on, though, and his explosiveness is going to be able to edge out a victory. Well, not edge out. I think he's going to get his hand raised in a dominating fashion.
Okay, now this fight, probably one of the best lightweight fights of all time. I've seen different opinions on either side of the equation. Charles Oliveira, Islam Makhachev, what a fight this is going to be. I know it's in October, but I feel like people are already still talking about this a lot. How do you assess that fight? Because it's really interesting to me. I wanted to get your perspective on that one. And who do you think edges it out?
It is interesting. I think, Charles is really finding his stride as a champion. I admire his career and the resiliency he showed, taking on those kind of early ups and downs. I helped Cub Swanson prepare for Charles back in the day. And just to see where Charles has taken his career since should be inspiring for all fighters. He's looked great in the clinch. He has shown that he's been hittable, but he's been very durable. And he makes amazing scrambles to be able to take these guys' backs. He's explosive. He's quick. And Islam, that the Dagestani style is such a grind. They're the best chain wrestlers in the world. Their ground and pound is amazing. Their submission game is always improved. And he comes from a great team at AKA and has one of the GOATs in Khabib training him. I think it's going to be fireworks. I really do. I think it may end up being much more of a striking match than everybody's anticipating. I think these guys may be nullifying each other a bit in the clinch and the takedowns and the groundwork early on, and we may see more of a striking match. And in that striking, I would give the style advantage to Charles early on, and we'll see. See how the 5-round fight progresses. I got to go with the champ right now and give him a slight edge. But I think we're going to be in for a great legendary lightweight showdown.
Chito Vera picked up a big win last night over Dominic Cruz. I know you worked with Chito early in his career. Just what's it like seeing where he's at now? Probably fighting for a title here pretty soon. That was a big win last night over Dominic Cruz.
It's inspiring. Chito came to Jackson's maybe 2014. I cornered Chito in his first UFC fight in Mexico City. He's just always been such a hard worker, so talented, and always been chasing his dream to provide for his family. And I'm so happy to see not only his growth at Ruka Gym with Jason Perillo, but also the bond those two seem to have. And I think that's so key for a coach and a fighter to develop. And Perillo is one of those guys I look up to. He has a small stable, and they're all killers. And just like Trevor Whitman, I'm kind of trying to model myself after that. Like, I don't want to be a coach to 100 guys. I want to be a coach to a very small handful that aren't only amazing fighters, but you have that real strong bond, brotherhood with. So I'm happy that Chito has seemed to find that. He has looked great, and he's scrappy. He's very sound defensively. His pressure is hard to deal with, and he's going to go take what's his. And so I'm really excited to see Chito up in this mix with all these other great bantamweights that we talked about. And Cruz has had an amazing career, and his style really did change the game. But I think guys have found some holes through it, and sometimes that's one of the things about being a great champion is there's just so much film on you. There's so many bouts against you. There's so many style matchups, and I think it becomes easier for the next generation to start picking those things apart. And early on in Cruz's career, his stance switches and his kind of Willie Pep style footwork threw a lot of guys off. And now it's something that guys get that look of in the gym sometimes. And, there's just, it's easier to find flaws in that style. And, Chito with his pressure and recognizing that kick, he did a great job. So I'm proud of Chito and the team there at Ruka, and I'm excited to see what's next for him.
Someone else you worked with in the past and just retired last month was Cowboy Cerrone. What was it like getting to work with them? And I'll follow that up with, will we ever see anyone like Cowboy again? I mean, just, taking fights whenever, driving around in an RV, there's really no one like him.
Cowboy's one of a kind. And, I met Cowboy when we were both very young. He was fighting in Ring of Fire in Colorado. And I remember him living in the dorms at Jackson's and helping us build that gym, in so many ways. And, I was able to call Cowboy a good friend for many years, and I learned a lot from him, and I'm always grateful for the opportunities he gave me. And we really believed in each other. And we went on a great run together, and we had, Cowboy had some amazing performances in the time I got to spend coaching him, like the Rick Story fight and Yancy Medeiros and so many great ones. The Matt Brown fight, and then we had some tough ones too. We had losses to Leon Edwards and to Darren Till, and some real game fighters. Masvidal we lost against, and sometimes it just comes where you got to part ways. And I was happy to see Cowboy have some big fights there in his career. I wish he would have had some of those moments under the brightest, biggest lights, like the Dos Anjos title fights or the Conor McGregor fight, where we would have seen Cowboy with his hand raised. But you're right, James. There's never going to be another Donald Cerrone. He's one of a kind. And, those times where he just fought so often, so many bonuses, he was down to fight whoever, fill in whenever, do big cuts overnight, or step up in a weight class. He really is one of a kind, and I think we're going to see less and less of that as the sport continues to develop. But I wish Donald all the best, and I was happy to see him hang it up. And I know he's going to go be a movie star, and that guy can do anything he puts his mind to. So.
Very well said. You might not remember this. A couple of years ago when we did our interview, you were telling me about this prospect who's coming up, and I know you don't work with him anymore, Jalen Turner, who was also on that card where Cowboy Cerrone retired, and Jalen picking up a big win over Brad Riddell. You have an eye for prospects, and one prospect I want to talk to you about today that I know you've been working with, this is Lydia Warren, girl, who's just been, I've been hearing a lot of good things about her, a lot of excitement. Just tell us a bit about her and what you see the future holding in her career.
Lydia, she's a hard worker. And she's been at Jackson Wink now for almost 6 years. She came out, college wasn't for her. She moved out here young and has just been grinding and pushing some of the best female fighters in our gym. She's been able to have great rounds with Michelle Watterson and Jodie Escabel and Holly Holm and so many of the greats that have come through Jackson Wink. And Lydia's starting to get her shine now. And she just turned pro. She made her debut on Jorge Masvidal's Icon show, and was up against a fighter with much more experience than her. But I thought it was a great matchup. And Lydia has some dynamite in her right hand, which isn't something you typically see in the lighter weight female weight classes. And she has a style and a bravado and a swagger to her as well. But don't let any of her image fool you, because that girl is a fighter through and through. So, we're excited. Lydia puts in a lot of work, and it's going to pay off. I see bright things in her future if she stays on this course she's on right now.
My last question, we had another great name going to the UFC Hall of Fame this past summer, Khabib Nurmagomedov. I know you didn't work with Khabib, but just your thoughts on his overall career and, retiring undefeated. It's very unusual. We don't see that in MMA that often.
Legendary, and I actually feel I was never able to work with Khabib one-on-one, but we did share a lot of moments together kind of through his UFC career. And there was a lot of mutual respect there, and I was able to train some of the great Dagestani fighters like Rustam Khabilov and Timur Valiev, and guys that grew up with Khabib, and they're all very close. And so just that Dagestani style really influenced and inspired me. So, I'm grateful to Khabib and his father and some of these great Dagestani fighters that I've been able to learn from and truly be inspired by. Man, Khabib's game is going to be legendary, and that's one thing I try to instill in Aaron Pico. There's elements of Khabib's, just his cage work, just being able to just shrug guys down, lift them up, turn them down, ground and pound them again. He's just relentless, and what a great career, and to truly retire undefeated, I think is something all fighters would aspire to have, and especially retiring with the belt. He deserves that first ballot Hall of Fame induction, and it's cool to see him in this coaching role as well, and in a promoter. He's going to continue to give a lot of great fighters opportunities, and I hope to continue to cross paths with Khabib in the future. I have a lot of respect for him.
Brandon, we went way over time. Thank you so much for that. You always make time for me. And I got to quickly mention this before we get out of here. You gave me a really good compliment years ago. I think I brought this up in another interview, but we were at the UFC Toronto event. I think it was Cerrone's fight against Matt Brown. And you're like, man, you're really good at this. And that always stuck with me. And I just want to thank you so much for that, because I always think about that, getting that compliment for someone who I respect so much in yourself. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time. I am going to give you the last word here, though, if there's anything you want to plug before we get out of here.
Well, you are very good at this, and it's shown. You said I have an eye for good talent. And maybe that goes on the media side as well.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you very much, James. And I appreciate catching up, and I hope to do it again soon. Hopefully we'll have some real big fights scheduled in the upcoming months. I want to see Jon fighting for the belt. I want to see Pico fighting for the belt. And, like you said, I've kind of been working quietly in the shadows for a few years, but that doesn't mean my game isn't growing and improving. And we're coming for it all.